There's a number floating around Hollywood right now that does not quite add up on the surface. $250 million. That is the figure most reputable financial trackers assign to Kevin Costner as of 2026. And at first glance, you might say, of course, he is a two-time Oscar winner. He starred in cable television's biggest drama. He had one of the most dominant runs in 1990 cinema that the industry has ever seen. But here is where the story gets complicated. That same man mortgaged oceanfront property in Santa Barbara. 10 acres he once described as the place where he planned to build his last home. To finance a passion project that lost tens of millions of dollars at the box office, he poured approximately $38 million of his own money into a film that most of America never saw. He walked away from a television show paying him $1.3 million per episode. And by early 2026, insiders were describing him in a way that should make anyone who has tracked his career pause for a long moment. They were calling him a risk. So, how does a man worth $250 million become a risk? How does one of the most bankable faces in the history of American cinema find himself in a position where the phone, as one industry source put it, has stopped ringing for leading man money? That is the story we are telling today. And the numbers behind it are far more surprising than anything on screen. Kevin Michael Costner was born on January 18, 1955, in Linwood, California. His father, William Costner, worked as an electrician for Southern California Edison. His mother, Sharon, worked in welfare services. The family moved constantly through California in the 1950s and 1960s as his father followed line work up and down the state. By the time Kevin reached high school, he had lived in enough towns to understand that stability was something you built yourself, not something the world handed you. He enrolled at California State University, Fullerton, and graduated in 1978 with a bachelor's degree in marketing. Acting was not the plan. It was barely a curiosity. After graduation, he took a marketing job in Orange County, and by most accounts, he looked like a young man headed for a practical, unremarkable career in business. Then, on his honeymoon flight home from Puerto Vallarta with his first wife, Cindy Silva, he had a brief conversation that shifted the direction of his life. According to multiple accounts of this story, including reporting from outlets like Celebrity Net Worth and Parade, he crossed paths with a prominent actor who offered encouragement and told him to keep pursuing the craft. Costner later credited that conversation with convincing him to keep taking acting classes at night while working his day job. The early years did not pay well. Small parts, bit roles, and the particularly crushing experience of filming a significant role in The Big Chill in 1983, only to have almost every frame of the performance cut from the final version. What remained, famously, was a body. His character was a dead man at the center of the story, so audiences saw him in a casket and nothing more. For a young actor trying to build a resume, that is not a credit. That is an absence. The financial transformation began slowly. The Untouchables in 1987 established him as a leading man. Bull Durham in 1988 earned more than $50 million domestically, over 10 times its opening weekend, according to box office records from that period. Field of Dreams in 1989 followed, generating approximately $84 million worldwide and cementing his identity as the face of American longing in a particular kind of storytelling. Then came the moment that built the financial foundation everything else would rest on for the next 35 years. In 1990, Costner directed and starred in Dances with Wolves. The film ran nearly 3 hours, centered on a Western at a time when the genre was considered commercially risky, and was helmed by a man the industry still thought of primarily as a handsome actor rather than a filmmaker. It won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, making Costner one of the rare performers to win Best Director for a debut feature. According to Celebrity Net Worth and Finance Monthly, in 1991 alone, Costner earned $50 million, primarily through back-end profit participation on that film. To put that in context, $50 million in 1991 is the equivalent of roughly $110 million in today's money. The following year, back-end points on Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves brought him another $40 million. Then came The Bodyguard in 1992, opposite Whitney Houston. The film earned over $400 million at the worldwide box office. The soundtrack reached even further. It became the best-selling movie soundtrack ever released, moving an estimated 42 to 45 million copies worldwide, and sitting at number 1 on the Billboard 200 for 20 consecutive weeks. Costner was central to that film, though the machine around it was so large it generated a cultural phenomenon that outgrew any single actor's name. By 1991 and 1992, Forbes estimated his annual earnings at $50 to $71 million, placing him at the very top of the industry. He had gone from a marketing graduate taking acting classes at night to one of the highest-paid men in Hollywood in under 15 years. The fortune that would carry him through every subsequent reversal, and there were several, was built almost entirely in this 5-year window. Here is something Hollywood history tends to underplay. It is possible to make a lot of money and still have your reputation crater at almost the exact same moment. That is what happened to Costner through the mid to late 1990s. And the financial effect of that reputational erosion took years to fully surface. Waterworld opened in July 1995 with a production budget of approximately $175 million, making it the most expensive film ever produced at that point. The press had been mocking it for months before it opened, calling it Kevin's Gate in a reference to the earlier Heaven's Gate disaster. The film earned roughly $21 million in its opening weekend and finished with about $88 million domestically and approximately $264 million worldwide. That is actually a significant global number, but against the production costs and the substantial marketing spend, it was nowhere near comfortable. The label of failure stuck harder than the actual mathematics of its performance. The Postman in December 1997 was genuinely worse. Costner directed, produced, and starred in it again, returning to grand, serious mode that had once made him look visionary. It cost between $80 and $85 million and earned somewhere between $20 and $30 million worldwide. The Golden Raspberry Awards, the Razzies, named it Worst Picture, with Costner collecting Worst Actor and Worst Director in the same ceremony. Within 7 years of his Oscar sweep for Dances with Wolves, he had become a shorthand for Hollywood excess. His personal life was also breaking apart in ways that had real financial consequences. His first marriage to Cindy Silva, which had begun in 1978 before any of the fame arrived, ended in 1994 after 16 years. According to reports from that period, the settlement reached approximately $80 million, among the most expensive celebrity divorces of that era. That was money out the door, gone from a fortune built between 1990 and 1993. The industry noticed all of it. By the early 2000s, as Costner later acknowledged in interviews, the phone had gone quiet. The easy leverage was gone. He was taking supporting roles in films like The Guardian in 2006, simply to stay visible, which is a particular kind of humiliation for a man who once picked scripts off a pile of weekly offers. Yellowstone premiered on the Paramount Network on June 20th, 2018, without award season fanfare or prestige reviews. Early critical response was mixed, but the audience came anyway, and it kept growing. By season 4 in 2021, the premiere drew approximately 12.7 million total viewers across platforms in its first 24 hours, numbers that place among the most watched cable dramas in recent memory. The salary progression is worth walking through carefully because it reveals just how much money was available to Costner during this period and helps explain the financial decisions that followed. According to reporting from Taste Country, confirmed by multiple entertainment finance sources, Costner began Yellowstone earning approximately $500,000 per episode. By season 5, as the show had become cable's biggest drama with more than 10 million live viewers per episode in 2022, his per-episode rate had climbed to approximately $1.2 to $1.3 million. According to Celebrity Net Worth and Yahoo Entertainment, his total compensation across all seasons of Yellowstone reached approximately $35 million before any back-end participation. On January 10th, 2023, he won the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a television series drama for the role of John Dutton. That win landed with particular weight in the context of his career because it arrived more than 30 years after the Oscar victories that had made him one of the biggest names in film. The industry was watching, and then, almost immediately, the numbers began to run in the wrong direction. Understanding Kevin Costner's net worth today requires understanding what he chose to do with the fortune Yellowstone helped rebuild, and how those choices played out. Horizon, an American saga, was a multi-film Western passion project that Costner had been developing for years. He was not subtle about his financial commitment to it. In an interview with GQ, he directly addressed the rumors about his investment and offered correction that surprised many people. "I know they say I got $20 million of my own money in this movie," he said. "It's not true. I got now about $38 million in the film. That's the real number." He also told Deadline that he had mortgaged 10 acres of oceanfront property in Santa Barbara, land he had described as the site of his intended final home, to help finance the production. The film's total budget was reported at approximately $100 million. The theatrical return did not justify that commitment. Industry coverage described the rollout as a financial debacle. The combination of limited wide-release traction and an audience that did not materialize at the scale required made it one of the more painful passion project failures in recent Hollywood memory. At roughly the same time, his divorce from Christine Baumgartner was generating its own set of revealing financial disclosures. Christine filed for divorce on May 1st, 2023, citing irreconcilable differences after approximately 18 years of marriage. The legal proceedings became public in a way that laid his finances open for examination in unusual detail. Court documents obtained by People and reported across multiple outlets revealed that Costner's income from 2022 was more than $19 million. His annual personal expenses were listed above $6 million. Christine initially requested approximately $175,000 per month in child support for their 3 children, Caden, Hayes, and Grace. Her legal team at one point reportedly floated a figure as high as $248,000 per month. In September 2023, a judge settled the number at approximately $63,000 per month. In a 2004 prenuptial agreement filing, Costner's net worth had been assessed at approximately $102 million. By the time of their 2023 separation, Christine's legal team claimed the figure had risen to approximately $400 million, a number that reflected real estate at fair market value, including a 160-acre ranch in Aspen, Colorado, and properties in Carpinteria, California, estimated at roughly $100 million alone. Some reports place his total real estate holdings at closer to $250 million when all properties were included. The more conservative current estimate, according to Celebrity Net Worth as updated in June 2026, places his net worth at $100 million in liquid and semi-liquid terms, with a wider figure of $250 million cited by multiple outlets reflecting total assets, including real estate. Cash. When Christine's legal team noted that Kevin was once offered $250 million for his Aspen ranch alone, and he declined, they were illustrating just how much of his wealth is tied to places he has chosen not to sell. Oath during a child support hearing in Santa Barbara that Paramount's final offer for Season 5 was actually less than it earned in earlier seasons, a claim that landed with particular irony given that the show had grown into the most-watched cable drama in America. He described the talks as long and contentious, involving disputes over salary, back-end participation, and creative approval over how John Dutton's story would end. On June 20th, 2024, he posted a video to Instagram telling fans he would not be returning to Yellowstone. He thanked the viewers, named the show a beloved series, and never mentioned Taylor Sheridan or Paramount by name. The show went on without him. Season 5 be premiered in November 2024 and revealed, before the first new episode had even finished, that John Dutton was already dead. Written off-screen as an apparent suicide, later revealed to be a murder. Many fans felt robbed of the ending they had been building toward for 6 seasons. The off-screen conflict had drained the on-screen conclusion of its weight. Meanwhile, a stunt performer named Devin LaBella filed a sexual misconduct lawsuit related to Horizon 2 production, adding a legal dimension to the already complicated picture. For insurers, studios, and anyone evaluating future business with Costner, that combination, money trouble, a major box office failure, on-set complications, and a high-profile departure from a flagship show added up to a calculation nobody in Hollywood stated publicly, but many were making privately. According to most authoritative public sources available as of 2026, Kevin Costner's net worth sits at approximately $250 million when total assets are counted, though the liquid portion is considerably smaller. His career earnings across film have included $50 million in 1991 from back-end points on Dances with Wolves, $40 million in 1992 from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, $14 million for Waterworld, and approximately $35 million total from Yellowstone. He reportedly earned $12 million for film at the peak of his box office power in the 1990s. His real estate holdings represent the core of his current wealth. The 160-acre Aspen Ranch that was reportedly valued at an offer price of $250 million, oceanfront properties in Carpinteria, California estimated at roughly $100 million, and additional holdings across California. Against that, he mortgaged 10 acres of the Carpinteria property to fund Horizon, and those obligations now factor into his net liability picture. He also diversified in ways many people do not know about. He invested in oil-water separation technology that was deployed during the Deepwater Horizon oil spill cleanup in 2010. He founded a film production company called TIG Productions. He owned the Midnight Star Casino and Restaurant in Deadwood, South Dakota, selling it in 2020. He invested in Osho, a road trip audio app. His country rock band, Kevin Costner and Modern West, which launched in 2007 and has released several albums, generates touring and music revenue, though not at a level that moves the overall financial needle significantly. The band's most recent release, Tales from Yellowstone, represented songs written from John Dutton's perspective, a project that tried to extend the character's cultural life even as the on-screen version was being buried. By early 2026, according to multiple entertainment industry observers, he was being described not as blacklisted, but as someone the industry now approached with caution. One source, quoted in reporting about his current standing, put it plainly: the phone had stopped ringing for leading man money. Another used the phrase polite decline mode. He had once commanded $12 million per picture. Those numbers were now history. His response was pragmatic. In August 2025, he signed on a honeymoon with Harry, a drama comedy with Jake Gyllenhaal at Amazon MGM. That project represented a deliberate change of approach. Smaller scale, no personal financing, no need to carry the entire production on his reputation. He was also linked in trade reports to a possible role as former President Bill Clinton in a political drama series called United, a project that, if it materialized, would place him inside a prestige television ecosystem without requiring him to fund it. Insiders quoted in early 2026 reporting described him as calling his redemption year, a phrase that held within it everything about this particular moment in his career: reputation, money, pride, the need to keep earning, and the recognition that the path back could not look like the path that had gotten him here. Kevin Costner turned 70 on January 18th, 2025. He did it months after Horizon had been widely labeled a costly failure, and weeks after Yellowstone had concluded without him, with his character dispatched in a way that left millions of viewers feeling cheated of the ending they had waited for. People close to him said retirement had never crossed his mind. That is the thing about a man who built a $250 million fortune on instinct, back-end deals, passion projects, and sheer refusal to accept that any version of his story was final. He has been written off before. In 1983, he was the actor cut out of a major film. In the late 1990s, he was a symbol of Hollywood excess.